Hi, my name is Lynn Wendt, and I'm here to talk about This is Our Family, Grandma and Grandpa's Cherished Stories. One of my favorite activities to do as a ghostwriter is to help people, grandmas and grandpas, tell their favorite story or two and leave it as a legacy for their family. It's something that I'm very passionate about. First, before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I've always considered myself to be a writer ever since I was 10 years old and got my first creative writing assignments. I've been writing for 40 years, fiction and memoir and poetry and essay. I've been involved with the same writing groups for 40 years or so. And if you notice, I love this picture, the picture of me as a little girl in the top left-hand corner as I'm facing the screen, and then on the bottom right-hand corner, there I am today, and I have the same writing desk that was handed down to me from my mother. So I love that continuity. My career, I was an information technology professional. I was a project manager and developed and delivered complex software development projects. I was a think tank member, global think tank member of the Project Management Institute. I hold my MBA and several degrees and certifications. When I left corporate America, as they say, I started to work in real estate. My son and a few partners had a boutique brokerage that's still ongoing in Lakeview near Wrigley Field. And originally I came in to help with the processes and the procedures, but I got the bug. I got my real estate license and my managing broker's license and was the designated managing broker for a couple years, or about 8 years. And it was there that I sort of went from the politics of a corporation to helping people one-on-one achieve their dreams. And working with people in that capacity, I think really has transferred to my career as ghostwriting. So I've always written. I know how to develop complex projects, including books, and I've worked with people one-on-one in their most emotional transactions. And so in my early 70s, when I was deciding what I could possibly do for the next 10 or 15 years, I decided it would be grand to help people write their stories. I help businesses tell their business legacy story, and I help entrepreneurs write books that help with their growth and their business to attract more clients or more speaking gigs or consulting gigs or whatever. And I also help people just tell their stories, their one or two or three stories that they would want their grandkids or their great grandkids to read about them someday. I think that's an important thing to do is to tell your story, and so that's what I love to do. Um, Memories are the threads that hold together the patchwork of family history. By writing our stories, we pass on the love, lessons, and laughter to future generations. Karen Kingsbury. So why would you want to write your family story? You would want to preserve your family history, you would want to impart wisdom, and you would want to strengthen emotional bonds, to name three. Preserving your family history within your story. You might talk about the cultural identity, your personal connection to history, the continuity of traditions in your home as you see them passed down to you and in subsequent generations. You might want to understand your ancestry for your impart what you understand to your children and grandchildren. And you have so much wisdom, so much wisdom. There's so many lessons from the past. It's hard just to sit down and tell somebody they can absorb it. But if you write it down, people can absorb it over time. Like I said, another reason is to impart wisdom. Once again, what were your guiding principles and values over life? Grandparents can share their core values and principles that have guided them, and in so doing might guide others within their family. You learn from experience. The experiences you've had are might be enthralling in their adventure or in their simplicity. They might be easily relatable, and it's good to talk about and write about your experience and the ensuing stories. Certainly, you're here, so there's a lot of resilience and perseverance in your life, and those are grand qualities to pass along to future generations. And you can tell the story and show them um, what it takes to embrace those qualities. And you want to encourage and support your your future descendants. It also helps strengthen emotional bonds. Your personal stories or your memories and their family history, and sharing the details of these stories just help generations understand each other and appreciate each other. You have life lessons and values, as we talked about. It's not like you say, I did this, this, and this. You tell the story and you show, in a heartwarming way, and that's how the lessons and the values and the wisdom are passed down from generation to generation. You might have letters that are part of your memoir, your story, or one letter that you want to write a story about. There might be affectionate stories that you want to tell, or stories about strife and overcoming hardships. And it's a way to engage with the future. You can have mementos and photographs in your book, and that makes it even more robust. You have a family story, you have a family history, and by documenting these life stories, grandparents can ensure that their family's history, tradition, and cultural heritage are preserved. Once again, you want to impart your wisdom to your children, to your grandchildren, and to your great grandchildren who you might never meet, but certainly will get to know you in a warm and wonderful way, and strengthen the emotional bonds of your family by telling your family stories. So we talked about those three reasons. My own inspiration was my great grandfather, who wrote a memoir, 50 Years in the Wool and Fur Trading Business, by Marcus Harris. And I've had this memoir since I've been a little girl and read it maybe every 10 years or so. And each time I do, I get something different out of it. And so I've reread it lately, and I think all the pieces are coming together for me as his personal sacrifice, his vision, his sense of adventure, his risk-taking, and his success. Um, so he was a remarkable man, and I'm so glad he took the time to write this short little memoir. There's no words to express how wonderful a gift that was. There's a lot of stories of adventure. He was in the wool and fur trading business. He had a wool trading post in Dodge City when Dodge City, was fraught with violence and gun violence. He and his brother Ben, he had family values was at the core of everything, and he and his brother Ben built a very successful business from the late 1800s to 1940 till they liquidated um, when Ben passed away. But they left so many wonderful stories. One story I love is that when Ben passed away and they liquidated their company, he felt he was too young in his 70s just to retire. He had a lot of knowledge, so he formed a business with his 4 adult daughters in the 1940s. And they were in business, I think, for about 10 years. They were all on the board and shared equally in the profits. And how I wish I had met my great aunts, that I had the foresight, but I was only in my 20s, to interview them and talk to them about their father and what it was like to run a business as a woman in, the 1940s. It's such a missed opportunity, but I am grateful for those stories. I do have, there's stories in the memoir about family gatherings with his 6 children and all his grandchildren and how much that meant to him. Stories of perseverance when in World War I, the government came and took all their product for the troops, and they were very patriotic, and of course that's what they did, and it set their company back, probably about 5 years, but they persevered. So many stories, wonderful stories, and I'm sure you have them too. Um, so one thing, having been involved in many, several entrepreneurial efforts, he doesn't talk about it, but I can extrapolate in his memoir that the pillars of his business success were perseverance and vision that he had, starting at 12, and how he persevered so many times during so many economic upheavals. He adapted to his current environment and could pivot. Most important, I think, were his family values. That was like the core of everything for him. He had other brothers who passed away young, and they started the business with their father, and it was all about family. His employees also became his family, and the value of relationships that was so important to him, whether it was, his family or the people who worked for him, or the sheep herders, or the people who sold their product. The relationships he just saw, banking industry. He just saw such value. He just knew that that was at the core of everything. He had relationships all over the world. They were global distributors. So I can help you write your story. We would just decide on an audience, identify the story or stories that you want to tell. You'd participate in interviews, so either online on Zoom, or I would record them on my phone, and have them transcribed. I would write a draft. We'd review it. You'd ask for input from your family if you wanted to, and we decide on another draft, and then I can help point you in places to get a cover design, and determine where you're going to print, and it should go through a level or two of editing, and how that can happen, and then where you're going to print and give your books as gifts, or if you want your book to be, in a broader market, we would have to look at hybrid publishers. A writer doesn't want of riches and fame, even though those aren't bad things. An authentic writer wants to leave behind a part of themselves, something that withstands the test of time, and in so doing lasts generations. So why not collaborate with an expert to help you tell your story? It involves you talking and me writing, and then some formatting stages at the end, and then you have this wonderful legacy to pass on to your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I do walk my talk. I am writing a book, so you want to write a book. What's next? That should be out later this year, or first quarter next year. So thank you all for your time, and I wish you great success in writing your legacies.